Sports Timeout Podcast with Jensen Maydew, Tony Caranco, and your host, Wes Underwood.
Welcome into the Sports Timeout Podcast, brought to you by Jefferson's Dollar Wings All March Madness. Get in and get that deal. I mean, it's going to be awesome. It's a couple more weeks. I think they're going until the 12th, 8th or the 12th, I believe. But I'm excited for that. I'm really excited for that. Then get on over to Robert's Integrative Dentistry. Man, if y'all missed it yesterday, 2 to 6, they had a special prize drawing, and Invisalign Day was yesterday, and they had a promo for $3,500 for Invisalign with special financing deals. Oh, man, if you missed out on that, you missed out. I got over there a little early on Wednesday. Got my teeth did, so
nice.
Yeah. But yeah, schedule your appointment today at 417-622-0404 and get that brighter, straighter smile. Wes Underwood, Clint, Tony out. Jensen may join us here in a few. We'll see. But how's it going?
It's going good. I saw Sports Timeout now as a Insta. So follow us on Insta.
Yes.
We can get pics of, I'll be taking pics of my parrot every weekday. So you can look forward to that. No, but that's cool that we got one
Parrot
going.
Madness. All right. Fair enough. But yeah, speaking of that, before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe and follow button on YouTube, and yeah, Instagram now too. I'm excited for that.
Get that algorithm going.
Exactly. And well, first up, we'll go ahead and talk NCAA. Speaking of madness, we'll talk March Madness on the men's side. Sweet 16 continues tonight. Number 11 seed NC State takes on the number 2 seed Marquette. And then the number 1 seed Purdue takes on the number 5 seed in Gonzaga. And then we have number 1 Houston taking on number 4 Duke. And finally, the nightcap, and number 3 Creighton and number 2 Tennessee. These are going to be fun. My champion's still in. As of last night, my Elite 8 and Final 4 are still intact. So
Ooh.
I have Houston winning it all, who barely survived. But yeah. How's your bracket? Did you have one or?
Oh yeah. So get this. I had 20 brackets. I made 20 brackets. I was like, just for the fun of it. Now, granted, I was like, by the 10th one, I was just really just clicking buttons. So I was like, just for the fun of it, because these are random anyways, see what happens. And literally 3 games in, I had one bracket. That was perfect. Think about that. 20 brackets, 20 scenarios, and 3 games in. It was like the first day. I think it was like Duquesne beat BYU. And from that game, I already only had one perfect bracket going with 3 games in. So I was like, well, this isn't going to go well. So then I was like, well, maybe I can still have like an awesome bracket. I was doing pretty well, actually, the first, because I had 20 brackets, but ironically, my first bracket was the best one. And I had I picked some good upsets, but then it finally broke Sunday, the final day. I picked like St. Mary's to go to the Sweet 16, and they lost. There was a couple ones that like, if I had to take a chance, and if they had kept going, then I would have an awesome bracket. But because it's that thing where it's like, if you pick wrong early, then it's like you also lose points for the next 3 games. True. So it was like, I picked St. Mary. There was another one where I was like, oh, if I would have picked that, I would have an amazing bracket, because I picked Clemson, which I'm pretty proud of, to go pretty far. I have them going to the Final 4. So if they end up going to the Final 4 and I get that part right, but I missed everything, like, oh, that'd be brutal. Because usually there is like that one, like the one, not mid-major, but like the 6 seed, 7 seed, kind of like Miami last year, where you're like, well, why were they not? They kind of had a bad end of the season, but all of a sudden they're in the finals. Clemson was my big pick for that, but now it's kind of like, we'll see what happens. How about you? I got Houston, but
yeah, like I said, my Elite 8's in there, but the teams that are in the Elite 8 are not playing any of the teams that are in. So my bracket's been busted. I mean, I could still have the national champion, but
yeah, that's the thing.
I don't really want to go into depth there. I'm kind of embarrassed of it this year. I'm not gonna lie. It was bad.
And like picking and especially because a lot of people just pick UConn. It's not even like you have pride for picking UConn or anything. Or I picked UConn, or Marquette's my sleeper, but even then it's like In fact, there's probably somebody out there that has a bracket that picked Marquette too. So you
Yeah,
kind of have to, unless you're in like a smaller group. Like I remember growing up with like church events where it was like you and there was like 14 friends. That was the
yes,
best. That's like you still could win without being amazing,
true.
but it was competitive. Because right now it's either you have like an all-time amazing tournament bracket and you're on ESPN or
Yeah.
nothing. There's really no in between. There's no like, hey, congrats, you got a little bit right.
Shout out
Um,
John Smith in the BSU league, still running strong.
yes, yeah, stuff like that is perfect. I recommend people doing that if you want to do if you want to really enjoy March Madness, office leagues, something like that, because
Yeah,
the just straight ESPN going for the perfect bracket like dies out with the first day.
absolutely. Well, on that note, we'll go on to the women's side, and Sweet 16 will
Mm,
begin today at 1:30. Oregon State taking on number three, or well, Oregon State's number three, taking on number two, Notre Dame. Then number one, South Carolina takes on number four, Indiana at 4 p.m. Then at 6:30, we have who do we got here? Oh, okay. NC State. A lot of states this year. That's been throwing me off. NC State, number three, and they're taking on number two, Stanford. That is going to be a fun one. Then the nightcap, we have number one, Texas, and number four, Gonzaga. Then tomorrow we have number three, LSU, taking on UCLA. I got my popcorn ready for that one. Angel Reese, man. She's something to watch for sure.
yeah.
Number one, Iowa and Colorado up next. Another one to watch, Caitlin Clark, the flop star.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get number one USC against number five Baylor. That one could be fun. I mean, the women's side, it just looks phenomenal. I'm not gonna lie. That's gonna be at 4:30, and then the nightcap will be UConn, Gino,
Yeah.
and number seven Duke, who I mean, kind of surprising a lot of people, but I like every match. I'm ready to watch. My champ is still in. I'm going with the Gamecocks here.
Mm.
Did you do this bracket or?
I didn't because I mean I would have been even more random. I barely follow men's. I mean that would be even more random. But definitely I'm interested in the saga of just it's cool that there's women's basketball interest and it's just as entertaining. I
Yeah,
did hear that like Caitlin Clark like this run isn't as impressive right now. Doesn't
no,
mean she can't bring it back, but I still thought that was kind of interesting. That there's
they're
actually been a
actually
couple other
expecting her to lose this round, but we'll
right.
see.
I mean they barely beat what was that West Virginia.
Yeah,
I mean, they really had to take some fouls that flopping or not, they really had to get a lot of fouls. It wasn't like West Virginia was lucky to get. I mean, it was kind of like a hard game. So
yeah.
that'd be
Last
interesting
year
if they
was the
break
year for her,
past
and
it.
she should have left on a high note. This year, things are kind of going
Awesome.
south
I mean,
for
she
her.
broke a lot of records, and she
Yeah.
probably still is more famous than she was
Other
last year,
than
right?
that, yeah,
But you're right in terms of like success. It might be kind of an odd note if it's like she loses this game and it's like, oh, that was a weird run. Where the,
yeah,
but if she's the first round pick, it won't really matter in this thing. But
true.
yeah, it does seem like it's the Gamecocks to lose though whenever you're undefeated.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And well, continuing in March Madness, next up we'll talk some ice cold madness as Iowa women's basketball star Caitlin Clark has been offered $5 million to play in Ice Cube's Big Three League. And the league co-founder, Ice Cube, confirmed on social media, and here's what he had to say about it. We intended the offer to remain private while Caitlin Clark plays for the championship. Ice Cube wrote on X, but I won't deny what's now already out there. Big Three made a historic offer to Clark. Why wouldn't we? Caitlin is a generational athlete who can achieve tremendous success in the Big Three. And, well, got any thoughts on that one? I mean, I like it, but isn't she
I
going to
mean,
the WNBA?
yeah, I
What?
mean, it's probably like, I mean, it probably just it keeps adding to her publicity, I guess, that it's like,
Yeah.
oh, she might go here, she might go there, but yeah, it almost seems like the fact that it got out was intentional, and he's playing it off like it's like this is a big
Whoa.
secret that we've been holding. It's like meanwhile nobody really cares, but yeah, so that's about it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I like it. I'm not quite sure where she's going to go with it. I mean, honestly, if I'm her, I'd take that 5 million. I believe that's more than what she would get going to the
Yeah,
WNBA.
that's
So
interesting too.
I don't know. Ice Cube's pretty sincere there, and he's pretty
on
He's
X.
pretty interested. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what could happen. Big things for her.
Oh
Next, we
yeah.
continue over to the MLB, and we talk opening day. I went yesterday. Always fun for the MLB opening day. It was my first official opening day at the K. And I always go to opening weekend, but never an opening day. And it was electric. But yeah, I mean, a lot of excitement for the season and for the Royals to be taking on the Dodgers, the Giants, the Cubs, Brewers, Mariners in spring training and to be around 500. That's exciting to me. I mean, there hasn't been this much hype since 2015 and they competed in every one of those games this spring. They tied the defending champs to end their spring at 1-1. The atmosphere around this team is so much different this year, and the rotation looks good. And hopefully, those bats can stay alive for the Royals. Pasquantino, he had off-season surgery. Well, actually, season-ending surgery, but recovery in the off-season. He's looking like he could thrash this year. Bobby Witt Jr.
Mm.
looks on pace to steal 80 bases. I mean, the guy has just been phenomenal at getting ready for this. But what are your thoughts on the Royals?
Well, that's exciting here. I didn't know that. I think it also is one of those things where it's like that Central Division is always up for grabs in
Yeah.
terms of like it's definitely. I'm also a Twins fan, which seems is an odd thing. If you,
Royals Twins opening day, baby. That's what
I
it
know
was.
that's a great opening day in Kansas City.
Yeah.
But then the main thing is that the Central Division is up for grabs, and
Yeah.
the in general. By the way, I'm a Twins fan, which seems odd since the if you followed along with this podcast, it's like okay, so he's Chiefs, Jets, Twins, Mavericks, Bucks, all over the place. But either associated with I picked teams when I was a kid and I've stuck with it in terms of the Jets, Mavericks, and Twins, or teams that I just kind of grew up with my dad, the Chiefs, and then my sister works for the Bucks, so that's my connections there. But it should be interesting.
This jersey was at Red Racks when I was growing up.
I guess I'll root for them. Um, no, yeah, but either way, I'm definitely always Missouri, especially living in California. I'm a Missouri head, hence why I'm on a Joplin, related
That's what
Missouri
happened to
podcast.
me. Fun story. That's what happened to me with the Red Sox. Red Racks. It was at Red Racks, and I walked in with my family. It was $5. I was like, "Cool, I'll take that jersey," and then I was a fan.
Ah,
So had a good
but
time too. Manny Ramirez, that
yeah,
era. Johnny Damon. He left
yeah,
Kansas City and then went there. I was super happy that he was playing there, and
yeah,
yeah.
at least, but still second behind the Royals for you
Oh
though.
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely,
okay,
absolutely.
but yeah, that
And
seems exciting.
yeah. As for the Cardinals, though, we'll talk to them too. They also finish around 500. They go up against Baltimore. They go up against Detroit, Boston, the Mets, the Astros, the Yankees, the Braves, and so on. But yeah, I like where they're heading to. But man, they're gonna have a fun season. I can see it. I do believe that they win their division, even though they're not supposed to.
Wow,
I think they come out and win it, and
over the Brewers.
I guarantee they get a wild card because
Okay,
that's just where I think they're going to be this year, mindset wise.
okay, because they've
Yachty's
kind of
back in
flamed
there;
out
it's going to
last
be
year,
fun,
right?
huh?
Because they kind of flamed out last year, right?
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit.
So you're calling it now that they're gonna have a comeback.
I think so. And if they don't, then I think their coach he's gone.
Ooh,
They
okay.
don't like losing 2 seasons in a row,
Yeah,
so
that's not their legacy.
no. But also in Tony's sake here, we'll go ahead and talk jerseys and have a little opening day fun. I want to know your top two jerseys you like in the MLB.
Ooh, what are it's kind of funny. Um the Cardinals are always thrown up there like it's an obvious like probably because it's legacy or something. And I don't
Yeah,
necessarily get it. Maybe it's just because I grew up with it, so it just seems like, just something my eyes see a lot, so it didn't seem special to see it. But to me it's just like, well, it's some Cardinals on a baseball bat. It's not exactly like amazing to look at. But there's some people that are just like that's classic, and then even non-Cardinals people that like that's your favorite thing.
yeah,
I actually I like the color of the Royals. Just because it feels like it's still from like the 40s or 50s. I kind of like that classic look. Um, and then I like when it's good, I like the Diamondbacks. Just because it feels like they can utilize a lot of colors and almost feels kind of 90s.
yeah.
How about you?
Okay. Gonna geek out here. Got to go with the Royals City Connect fountain uniform. I thought that was pretty epic to
Whoa,
come out with
going
that.
going specific.
And then number two, because that's my all time favorite now. and
Wow.
I really like that, and I hope they keep that. I used to go with the black and blue here that they had in the 2000s, but yeah,
Oh yeah.
definitely like the fountains over this one. And then second, growing up, I always liked the Indians when they
Oh
had
yeah.
their jerseys with the chief on it. I always
Yeah.
thought they did a good job there with that. Um, I really like them. I think their uniform late 90s is the one I like the most. I'll have to go back and look that up, but I'm pretty certain that's when it was because I know it wasn't the 2000s, but late 90s. I loved watching
Okay.
or seeing those uniforms. They were fun. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, well, good ones there. I like yours too. Pretty
Yeah.
solid. Pretty solid.
Yeah, mine aren't as specific as yours, but the mine's the
Hey,
general idea of the jerseys.
and
I will say,
well,
if you look back at the Indians ones now, it almost is like I could see why we've moved on. Like it's almost like this kind of like geeked out smile look of like it almost looks like a
it's the
caricature
Guardian
from,
now, so
yeah, exactly.
they
But
might as
which,
well just put the Guardians of the Galaxy on there and coin it.
yeah, I know it's that bad change where it's like they needed to change, but the logo for the Guardians looks like a AFL team, or like it looks so
It
like
does.
not doesn't look traditional at
It's
all.
not. It's not worse than the Washington Commanders, though.
No, no.
So don't think we could ever get. No,
Go back to the
that's
football
just
team.
horrible. Yeah, yeah. Go back to football team. But speaking of that, we'll go ahead and talk NFL briefly, and lots of things coming out. Hip drop tackle, according to the competition committee chairman Rich McKay, the proposed rule was written to address a subset of rugby tackling style that spread around the NFL in recent years. It calls for a 15-yard penalty if a defender grabs a runner with both hands or wraps the runner with both arms and unweighs himself by swiveling and dropping his hips or lower body, landing on or trapping the runner's legs or below the knee. I mean, I'm still not happy here, even though I think they made up with the kickoff rule. I do like that. It makes it more interesting. And I mean, it still kind of gives an advantage to the kickers because they can still choose to kick it out of bounds. But anywhere in that zone, if they don't get it in there, I believe it's a penalty. And they have to get it within that zone. So if it goes out the back of the end zone, they're fine. I'll have to do some more reading on that, but I'm pretty certain that's what I'm taking from it. But I like that. No one can cross the line until the ball hits that boundary line. But I don't know. And then not just that, the trade deadline moves back a week. I do like that because I think that that gives teams an extra little bit to kind of get some stuff, especially you lose people around week 9 and it's like, oh, shoot, we
Yeah.
don't have anybody to go to. So I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I'm still not okay with this though. The hip drop tackle. I mean, what are your thoughts here? I will add, I'm completely okay with the third string quarterback too on game day. He just gets to be on
Oh
the
yeah.
practice squad and sitting in the stadium, and if he gets called upon, he can go put on a jersey and come and play. So I do like that. But what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of I've been interested in like what the community of football, a lot of the football analysts I listen to and stuff. Because it's a little bit split. Even the people that might be kind of open-minded about it in terms of like wanting the players to be safe, even some of those people are kind of like, yeah, that I get it, but there comes a point where it's like it becomes almost impossible for the defense, and it's like, um, so it's kind of tough because you don't want to just be like, well, screw that, let them get injured. It's like that's the game. It's like I always hate that kind of
Yeah,
traditionalist point of view. But you also kind of have to look at like, well, now you're making this whole position that people have been practicing their whole lives of being a defensive player, change. So there's that part of it. Then I've heard some people though that kind of give the argument of like, if the ref like the tough part is like it's going to be week 1 and we're going to like hear refs explaining this and we're going to be even you explaining it was like, wait, so what, swivel if this happens? And then there's probably going to be like a little bit of like what's the word, like a training program for us where we're kind of
oh
like,
yeah.
oh, this is so confusing, and
Don't
we're kind of
worry,
annoyed.
Gene Steratore got us, man.
Exactly. So that's the problem is like if the reps are bad about it, that's going to be even worse because like, well, they can't even explain it. But
Yeah,
someone said that it's kind of, if it's done right, it's kind of the equivalent of the horse collar tackle, where when that first happened, people were like, "What is this? You can't grab them up there now." It's like, but it is safer, and if it's ref, like, and we haven't really had complaints about the horse collar tackle in a while. It used to be a big problem. Now people kind of get it. It's like if you grab the jersey, it's not. If you grab them by the horse collar, it's bad. So I think that there's an argument to be made that like once we get used to it and like we fully understand of like,
Yeah.
okay, this is dangerous. A guy can literally break his leg because of this tackle. We should find a way to fix it. Then it's good. But there's gonna be a runway, especially this year, where we're probably gonna be annoyed by it. That's like refs are having different versions of it, and a lot of defensive players are like not knowing how to tackle, and so now their job's hard, and it's already harder than it is. So I'm intrigued. It's like again, you want the I'm never the full traditionalist of like I want it the way it was in the 40s where people are bleeding and injured and get concussions and like have can't think by the time they're 50. But also, you don't want to change the game so much that it's kind of like now it's just confusing and people are learning the wrong sport growing. It's like and now everybody loses. So it's an interesting debate.
Yeah, I mean, well said. I agree there too. I'm just confused as to how they're going to tackle also because now are they going to be more lenient with people pulling the jersey instead as long as it's
Right.
not the horse collar? I mean, the jersey,
Maybe.
but what
Yeah.
about the hair? What about the hair? The hair's part
Yeah.
of the uniform. If
Yeah,
they've
that's
got
still legal.
dreadlocks, can you still pull them by the head?
Oh yeah.
I mean, as long
Yep.
as you're not ripping off the helmet, as long as you're not grabbing the face mask, you're not getting up here around the collar, you're not back here. I mean,
Yeah.
if you grab the dreads, is that how people are going to take them down now?
Maybe that will
If they've
be.
got them and just go, oh, you're down, boy.
Yeah. And
I
a
don't
lot
know.
less players are going to have dreads. It's like, well, that's the only thing they can grab anymore. So I might as well
Very
just
well
not
could,
have it
yeah.
anymore. But that's a good point. That's my main thing with this first year, especially, is that I feel like there's going to be a lot of people that are like, well, where can they tackle? It's like, okay, they can't go to the legs, they can't hit in the head, they can't go down here, they can't hit drop tackle. It's like, where they like they're gonna
You
go
know
for a
what they're going to
tackle.
say?
What's that?
We're benefiting Mahomes here because now Kelsey is just going to have a heyday. Hollywood Brown's going to go off for 150 every game.
Yeah. Well, that's the general. It both is safer, but also the NFL just wants because I think there was like record numbers of like low scoring last year, which is
Oh,
interesting.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
defenses oddly got better. Like we've seen this trend where offenses were just so good. It was like, what's the point of defense? And then weirdly last year, defenses kind of figured some things out, as we saw by the Chiefs, like basically winning a Super Bowl by defense, and that's the Chiefs. So I think there's some aspect of that of like, okay, people are getting injured, and now our numbers of offenses going down, so we want that to go up, and then blah blah blah. Which, to be honest, if as long as it's not flag football, it's not the worst thing in the world. As long as the defense can still do their job and it's not impossible. But I think if this gets explained, then if anything, I'm kind of excited for the kickoff rule in terms of rules changing to add to the excitement.
You can't do the waist. Can't do the knees. I guess grab the feet and the shoelaces or just push them out of bounds, push them down, or pick them up and then lay them. I don't know.
No, you
lay
tap them on the
down,
shoulder
or
and
as soon
say,
as they're in the air, they blow the whistle now.
"Oh yeah, probably something like
I don't
that."
know.
You tap on the shoulder and say, "Hey, I tackled you,"
I
and
mean,
then that's it. The ref
how
calls
many
it
how
dead.
many times has Tyreek Hill just been lifted off the ground?
Yeah, or that big Travis Kelce one. Yeah,
That too, yeah. Oh my goodness, yes.
yeah. But yeah, I still don't fully understand it, but I've seen a couple explanations of like, yeah, I can see why that's very injury prone if that happened to me, 4 times a game. So
Yeah. Well, off that, speaking of rugby tackles, we get a rugby player as news broke on Wednesday that the Chiefs, of all teams, will be signing rugby star Luis Reese Zamet, and he's dreamed of this since he was young. His father played in NFL Europe, which I thought was a pretty cool fact. His journey's fun to watch. It's on YouTube. The NFL UK produces it. It's called The Pathway Journey of the IPP Class of 24. And I mean, they learn to run routes. They learn the lingo of the game. They learn the rules, which, I mean, it could be more complicated next season now. After they've had these votes, it's like they went and tried out and then blah, blah, blah. But yeah, but then, yeah, I mean, it could be amazing. It's going to be a compliment to Pacheco for sure. I love it. And yeah, he breaks tackles from what it
yeah,
showed. He's fast. He ran a 4.4340. He can
ooh,
catch the ball in the
yeah, I know.
backfield and the front. Also, I watched him. He's a rugby player. He has accuracy and he can throw. So is he the third string quarterback, second string quarterback? Who knows? Andy Reid's
Or
going to have fun here. But what
yeah,
are your thoughts?
or receiver pass options. Yeah, I think it's like it's one of those things where it's like we're early enough where it's like he might still not even make the roster, but
True.
I like the idea that they're kind of like, why not take a flyer? I mean, if this guy, learns the ways of how the system works, because that would mainly be the toughest thing. It's like because we've seen time and time again where it's like speed and agility doesn't necessarily translate
Six
to good football player.
6'3", 194. I think that's Andy Reid's type of guy right there.
I know. So if it's like, why not get? And I'm wondering if it has anything to do with the kickoff rule, where now it's like we can find players that just like all they do is just know how to navigate this new
Yeah.
kickoff standard. We just run towards a crowd of
He's
people.
got phenomenal cut ability. Like
Yeah,
he can just cut the field. And on grass, like turf, he struggled a little bit during the camp videos, but on grass, when I watched him play actual rugby and got to see what he looked like, I'm just like, dude, this guy can cut across the field and shift like no other.
yeah,
So
I
we'll
love it.
see.
I always love flyers, and usually the flyer is a a player that hasn't been good or has been injured, and then so the flyer is the upside. But it's kind of fun to have a flyer where it's like if they can learn the sport, they can be amazing. So
He's
we'll
also
see how that
23
goes.
years old, so that helps too.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's not like a
So
veteran.
yeah, it's nice. It's nice. All right. We'll talk your wheelhouse here and we'll go into the NBA and we'll talk playing games. 9 games left for most teams going into tonight. We
Hmm.
will talk the playing games yet again, and we'll go ahead and look at the NBA stuff here. I'll get it pulled up on my end. If you want to pull it up on your end too, you
Oh yeah.
can.
Well,
But
I almost have the standings memorized if you want to know.
hey, there you go.
That's
So
how close it.
Boston's already in, right?
Oh
So
yeah, Boston's going to be
they're
the one seed.
they're good to go.
Milwaukee's probably going to be two,
Yeah, New
and then
York,
everything after that.
Cleveland, Orlando,
Yeah,
Indiana. Mm, they were losing to the Bulls, and I believe they ended up losing. Yeah,
yeah.
125 to
I'm
99 the other night. So
I'm hoping they lose. The interesting thing is because of injuries and stuff, the Heat and Sixers are currently the 7 and 8 seed.
yeah,
But clearly, once they're the type of teams that once it gets to the playoffs, especially with the Heat, we've seen it, can make noise. So it's kind of this odd position for the Bucks and Celtics, where it's like of all teams, the Sixers and Heat could be the
yeah,
teams we play our first round of the season, depending on who wins. And whereas you have these kind of like up and coming teams like the Magic,
absolutely.
Cavaliers, and Pacers, who are going to be above them. So I'm kind of hoping the Heat or Sixers pass them just for the sake of not. I mean, again, for the Bucks' sake, not having the first round matchup be like the Heat
Yeah,
or something. It's like, come on, can we have? Though they might want revenge after last year, but it's
Chicago.
interesting.
Chicago's my team. They need to get up there where Miami is. Chicago needs to win out, man, because they need a home game for the playoffs so bad because they haven't had one in forever. They've just done these playing games. They've
Mm,
barely made it in, having an okay record, but I think they're better than what they can be and
yeah,
what they
Kobe
are right
White.
now. But
Yeah, definitely.
all the
They
injuries,
can.
they just can't get it together.
Yeah, they can make a splash. Remember last year? This is how weird the NBA can be. I mean, actually, though this never happens, but last year the Hawks beat the Heat in the playing game,
Yeah,
right? And so the
yeah,
Heat were now fighting for the 8 seed. The Bulls were like one DeRozan shot away from beating the Heat,
yeah,
and the Heat wouldn't even made the playoffs.
yeah.
Instead, because Eric Spoelstra is like one of the best coaches ever, they make the playoffs as the 8 seed barely, beat the Bucks, and make it to the NBA, like make it to the finals. So
Mm-hmm.
it's so weird that way, where it's like sometimes these playing games can be sneaky if you can, and that's why it's odd that these two amazing teams are. I mean, could be amazing teams. I should say once Embiid gets back,
Yeah.
are in the are play-in
Oh yeah.
teams. So we'll see what happens. But there's a lot of things that are in the middle, up in the air, but also there's a lot of things we kind of know. It's like we have a feeling it's probably going to be Bucks, Celtics. Knicks might make a splash kind of situation.
Western
And then
Conference.
yeah, then the West. Kind of the same boat where, except for instead of the Celtics kind of have been the one seed all year, Denver's finally back up to the one seed.
Yeah.
And even though secretly in a lot of people's minds are kind of like they probably are the one seed. I mean, they have the most talent of anybody in the West, but they've kind of been it's like they've had injuries, and then so OKC and Minnesota's been up there, but now they're kind of up there, and they're the team you don't want to play. And then you have my Mavericks, who are kind of sneakily getting up the rankings,
They're looking good.
and Yeah, looking really good, and you'd almost rather play the Thunder or the Timberwolves than you would the Nuggets.
Yeah.
These are like young teams who are not like guaranteed, like
Thunder
you
could be
know,
dangerous.
absolutely. I mean, all these teams have talent. There's a reason why they're up there, but
Yeah.
I don't think the Mavericks are in a position where it's like, oh man, if we play the Thunder, there's no way. I think it's kind of like they're a two seed, but they're a very beatable two seed. So the West is interesting, where it's like the Nuggets because they won last year and because of the legacy, you assume they're going to be a tough out, but everybody else is kind of just like, who knows? I mean, it's like
Yeah.
if the Mavericks did go to the Western Conference Finals, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers somehow just like have a nice stretch with Anthony Davis and LeBron. They can, um, except with the only exception being the Warriors, even though I know they have the pedigree, but they've really just kind of played down to the competition. But who knows? Maybe in the playoffs they'll.
Early finals prediction.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Um, my desperate want is Bucks Mavericks, but I'm gonna say Bucks Nuggets,
Okay.
and I'm gonna say Bucks win.
You don't think Boston will get there this year?
I think in the clutch, the Bucks are really gonna want this game, and I trust that they can get past it.
Okay. Yeah, I actually I agree there, to be honest. I mean,
Ooh.
I want to see it, and the viewers probably want to see it too. I mean, I know that there's a lot of Celtics fans, but the Celtics, for some reason, and I know it was a Doc Rivers thing, but the Celtics, as of late, even without Rivers, have just kind of fizzled off towards the playoffs, and
Hmm.
they really haven't just been dominant like they used to be. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think it's like, and I think this is why people would be more excited by Bucks Nuggets is that the Celtics have this odd thing where it's like they don't really have a star. It's not. It's like they're like Tatum's great, and they're a well orchestrated team.
Yeah.
But I think I wonder if that's kind of the reason why they fizzle out is they don't have that guy where it's like, oh my gosh, oh no, here comes Jason Tatum. Like that's not really how he is. He's a great defensive player and an all around player, but and so I'm wondering if that's why when it comes to these really clutch moments and it's Game 7, Western Conference Finals, it's just kind of like, all right, who do we go to? And we've seen that this
Yeah.
down the stretch in the season, even where it's kind of like when it's a close game against a good team, they're not as dominant. When they're
No.
already winning, it's like the Ravens in football. It's like when they're winning by 20, they can even reign even more. But when it's a close game, all of a sudden the little tiny details start to come true. And I feel like the Bucks can do that with the risk being they've had a very up and down season too. So it's hard to like fully bank on like I know they can beat them, but I'm just if I had to bet, I would do that.
Same here. Same here. All right. Next up, we go talk soccer, and we go to the NWSL and the current. And I got a chance to catch up with current defender Izzy Rodriguez, and we talked off season and the season at hand. Take a look. And we welcome back current defender Izzy Rodriguez. How are you?
Good. How have you been doing?
Oh, pretty good. Dad life is catching up to me now, and this year I became a teacher also, so that's been fun.
Busy, busy.
Indeed. I mean, you are too, and if you want to head that way, we could start there.
For sure.
And go ahead and talk that new contract you got this past off season. I know we're a couple games in now, but what led to that moment after being a free agent that had you say, I want to re-sign here in Kansas City?
Yeah, so I'm not quite a full free agent yet. But as soon
Okay.
as the season was over, I started having those conversations just with our GM and everything, and it just made sense. Like as soon as they offered me, there was no answer other than yes. I wanted to be here, and I'm really glad they wanted to keep me. So signing here for another 2 years was a very easy decision for me to want to stay.
Awesome. And last time we had you in, we talked about the team learning and growing together. And you all start this year off with several new faces yet again. How does that help or hurt you guys in the growing process?
So I think both player wise and staff wise, we have so many new faces this year. And I honestly think it's helped a ton because we're all starting off from scratch almost. We're all learning together. We're starting from the really tiny details and moving on from there. So it's been really easy to all get on the same page because we don't have a bunch of different levels of, oh, we all know this, but we're trying to catch up from other people. We're all starting at the same spot. So I think the growing process has been really fun because we're developing every day. You're seeing us add on things now in the last 2 games, I feel like we've even grown a little bit. So I think it's actually helped having all these new faces put together.
Yeah, it's definitely caught other defenders off guard for sure because they don't know where you're going to go now. And with that young talent out there, I mean, it's been fun to watch. And you slipping in last week, getting that goal. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but that one was pretty sick.
Thank you. Thank you.
And well, we continue to speak on new faces, lots of them as we just described there. But you guys got a new head coach in Vlaco this offseason, a guy who's been here before and a guy who's seen a lot of coaching for the U.S. women's national team as well. What has his philosophy been to kind of help you guys off to this fun start?
Yeah, I think he's really put an emphasis on the mentality side. That's something we can really focus on from the get-go. And I know he describes it as just being like a Kansas City spirit, just the way the city is, the way the people are, the community, the other sports teams. So we like to have that grit, but I think he has an incredible coaching mind. So like we've worked on player development, individual and team, and I think that on top of the mentality is going to take us places. I mean, you can see he's won in this league before, and I think he's ready to do it again.
That's awesome, and glad to hear. Glad everything's going well so far. And kind of rolling off that, you guys start the season beating the top two teams from last season in the Thorns at CPKC in that huge home opener. And then you had the big road win last week in San Diego. What is the current mindset of this team right now after those two big wins?
I mean, I think we're really excited. We've been taking every day kind of just one game at a time. But everyone, you got to enjoy the wins a little bit, and then we got to learn from them. We've definitely looked at them in our Portland game. We had to look at 4 goals that we get scored on against, and how can we close out a game and make sure we keep those leads big. And I think we really worked on closing out a game for San Diego, and we ended up having to do it. So I think that paid off. But we're really just wanting to fight every game we come in. Every game is super competitive. So I think it's just making sure we're focusing one game at a time and not looking too far out.
Yeah, I think it was Labonta that said that in the press conference this last week. And then the week before, she also said in the opener, she was like, yep, we scored 4 and we allowed 3 or whatever it was, 5 and 3.
Yeah.
And she's like, we're going to hear about it. We know we
Yes,
will. So,
for sure.
but, and then next up, we're going to go ahead and talk to you about that goal you scored. And you mentioned it was planned, but it also got deflected as it went in. In that moment, what kind of went through your head as you got the goal? Because, I mean, you see it get tipped. Did you have any doubt of it going in, or did you know it was going in?
Honestly, I don't even think I could see where the ball was because I was swinging my body really weirdly around to try to get around it. So I didn't see it, I think, until it actually went into the back of the net. So I think I was just trying to get it anywhere on frame at that point, and I just saw the ball pop out. I think Lowe tried to take a shot and got deflected, and then kind of just set me up to get something on it at least. And this league, you just kind of take shots when you get them. And I think that that was an exciting moment, put us back into an even game and get us into the next half, hopefully on the front foot.
Awesome. Well said. And definitely well earned, too.
Thank you.
And next up, we go ahead and talk the return to CPKC this weekend. You all get to host Angel City FC at 2:30 p.m. And they are currently at the bottom of the table, but they have played pretty aggressive on the defensive side of the ball so far. How do you all prepare for this one as you know that they're going to come out attacking?
Yeah, I think especially when you start off with a couple losses, they're going to be even more motivated to get their first win. So we're going to have to match that and even take a step higher with our mentality, first of all, like setting the tone early. We want to be the attacking team. We don't want to be on the defensive side. And then just preparing this whole week, I think, focusing on this game, what we can do first. And then obviously we'll tag in some details about what they do special and how we're going to deal with that. But we need to put together a full 90-minute performance, I think, to beat them, because every team in the NWSL is a difficult opponent for sure.
And that's another thing you guys have done this year. It seemed like last year there was a little bit of struggle with the 90-minute total on being able to communicate there. What have you noticed differently this year with the communication? Like I said, I mean, and you said it too, with all the new faces, have you guys been able to communicate so well?
Yeah, I think we've really trusted each other and trusted the plan that we have set forth for every game. And then we've all just been able to do our job really well. I know when we were finishing out the last game, we worked on how we're going to close a game, what roles each line had, what roles each side had, and how that was going to look, and everyone just executed. So I think that's the biggest part, is we all knew what we had to do and we just had to execute it. And again, sometimes you do have to cover for each other when something happens, but we do those moments.
Awesome. All right, last we got a couple of fun ones here for you. And first up, you got the newcomers. And out of those newcomers, who's the most exciting to watch so far?
This is a tough question because we do have so many, and all of them bring something so unique to our team and so incredible that we have so much depth and ways to attack and even ways to defend. And I think this has been a fan favorite for a lot of people. Timeout is just so incredibly fast. It is so nice to play with her, to see her do her magic. And I know she had a bunch of goals last season. I can feel those coming from her. And she just looks like she enjoys being out there. So she's been really fun to watch.
That's a great answer because honestly, I would say that too because how close has she come to getting in there
Uh-huh.
and just barely being off? And she's just like, oh, it didn't
Yes,
go in.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. And then she does it again, and it's coming soon for her. And nobody's figured out how to deal with it yet. I mean, going against her every day is a challenge for all of us too.
Nice. And one more fun one here. And you're a dog person, correct?
Yes, I love dogs.
All right. Well, on that, what kind of dog is your favorite overall and why?
So I can't say that I don't like any type of dogs. I love all dogs, but I'm a sucker for rescues. Always had rescues growing up. So I don't know if that's necessarily a breed, but my dog now is a Rottweiler Chow mix. So
Okay.
I might have to say that that's my favorite just because she is my baby and I love her to death. She's kind of the opposite of what you'd think a Rottweiler or Chow would be. Normally they're pretty protective and strong-minded. She is scared of everything. But she's fantastic. I think any sort of rescue. I'm also a sucker for a German Shepherd of some sort too, because that's kind of what my old family dog was. So I'm a big fan of rescues. I'll go with that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, and we appreciate you coming on again. Hopefully, we get to have you back on later in the season, and hopefully, it's a good thing to talk about too, because you guys look like you're going in the right direction, and we're all for it. So,
For sure. Thanks so much for having me.
yeah, not a problem. Take care. I like them this weekend at home back at CPKC. They did their thing the first game. They played great, as Izzy said, against San Diego Wave. They came out and played defense really hard in the second half, and they were able to get another goal to go in and get that W, and they're at the top of the NWSL table, and it's been fun to watch, and it's great to see. Congratulations, Coach Vlaco, on what you're doing there, and keep it up because it seems to be working right now, and hopefully we're saying that by mid-season too. So
Yeah.
next up, we go ahead and talk Messi, though, and his visit to the New England Revolution. If he returns this weekend, it could be record-breaking on the crowd side because the New England Revolution had a record-broken crowd of 61,316 back in the day, and that was the previous one. And Wednesday, they had 6,000 tickets left, so we'll see where they're at
Mhm.
tomorrow if they make it or not. I bet they're going to either keep that hush hush or it will come out later today. But not only is Messi doing great things for soccer in the U.S., but down in Miami, and yeah, he's gaining viewers for teams that normally wouldn't have great attendance or viewership. But I mean, New England usually has decent attendance, but other teams, it's pretty cool to see. And I'm excited for the match in Kansas City. It's already sold out. Kansas City Stadium, Arrowhead there, they hold 76,416. You excited to see that match?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be, I also just think, go Mahomes,
He'll
and
be
that whole
there, I
vibe.
bet.
And yeah. And just the fact that it's this, one of a kind women's soccer only stadium that's adds
Yeah,
to the drama, I feel like.
indeed. And well, we'll go ahead and talk sporting, and they're next. They had a bit of a setback last week as they fell at home to the Galaxy, and as I stated, they could score, and they did. 3 unanswered goals in the second half after SKC was up 2-0 at the halftime. But yeah, Galaxy had their way and didn't really help out Amelia at all, the SKC defense. I mean, they had a lot of shots on goal, and 3 of them unfortunately went in. And I mean, we'll see what they can do against Toronto tomorrow. Toronto is another great defensive team. They can score when needed. Their keeper Kerr is a tough one to score on, though. In 5 matches, he's only given up 2 goals, as to Amelia's 6 in 5 matches this year. So, yeah, SKC will have to take every opportunity given, play better defense this week. And yeah, I mean, any extra thoughts here? Pretty defensive minded in this one.
No, mainly because I don't follow them very closely, but go KC.
And well, then we'll move on to St. Louis. And as for them, they're not too far behind SKC either. I mean, they're up on them in the table, but after a couple of draws, they've had pretty stagnant. I mean, they've scored, but they've been pretty stagnant offensively. I mean, they get the equalizer and everything, but next they get to take on Real Salt Lake this weekend. I'm thinking SKC or St. Louis. Sorry, the S's get me going there. I'm thinking St. Louis can get back in here. We'll see how they defend. Scoring isn't an issue, though, like I just mentioned a little bit. I mean, 5 matches, they've scored 10 goals, so they've averaged a couple goals a game, and we'll see. We'll see if their keeper can hold up, and I think they pull out the win, though. Any thoughts on that one?
No, I'm with you.
And, well, on that, we'll head to the local sports update brought to you by Trackside Burgers. They are open at 1515 West 10th Street. Go get one of Chef Mike's specialties. And we talk weekend high school baseball. Joplin is out and about this weekend. And so will Carthage and Carl. All of them will be on the road. We have the Yosho on the road as well. So everybody that was home last weekend, they're on the road this week. So, yeah, pretty much all of our local teams there. And 2-minute warning, we'll go there next. And brought to you by Hot Stone Pizzeria. Not feeling like cooking this weekend? Go grab a chicken bacon ranch pizza this weekend. And yeah, well, 23-5 Lions baseball team is coming. They'll be on the road taking on a 3-game series this weekend. Tune in to their social media page for that one. And as for the softball team, the 25-10 Lions will host 2 doubleheaders. Series 1 will begin. Excuse me, sorry, I had to catch my breath there. Series 1 will be between Fort Hays beginning at 2 p.m. with Game 2 to follow, and tomorrow they will host University of Nebraska Kearney. Game 1 will begin at 2 p.m. with Game 2 to follow, and well, the music's here, so it's the end of another episode. For Tony, Jensen, Clint, and myself, have a great weekend. Make sure you go get some Ghetto tacos before your games this weekend or wherever you're heading. Tonight is, or well, all day today, 10% off your burritos here at Ghetto. And if you can't get in tonight, make sure to grab a breakfast burrito tomorrow morning or over the week. And yeah, well, got any plans? My spring break's drawing to an end. You got anything going on this weekend?
Not much. Just doing my comedy stuff here in LA and watching, gearing up for the NBA playoffs to start. As a California boy.
Gearheads, right? That's coming out too, isn't it? Speaking of gears.
Oh yeah. You got.
I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, I'm actually doing stand up in LA as the character of the 8-year-old comic.
Why are you
Florby.
sitting down?
I know. So if you're in LA, come see an 8-year-old stand up comic
Named
Florby.
Oh yeah,
Which is very unfortunate where most of the letters in the word he can't pronounce, but
And well, we'll catch you all next week on the
Sports
Sports Timeout.
Timeout.
Take care.